Welcome to today's Australian Immigration Bulletin live event. In our live events, we share real stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help aspiring, skilled professionals who would like to come to Australia. Whether it's strategies, lessons, or inspiration, each segment is designed to help you take the next step in your journey. So, if you're ready to learn, grow, and move closer to your dreams, let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the February live event for the Australian Immigration Bulletin. I'm your host Laura and I am absolutely thrilled to bring you this very special session today. This isn't just any podcast episode. This is a deep dive into the story of someone who truly embodies the resilience, determination and adaptability it takes to succeed as a skilled migrant in Australia. Our guest today is Van, a civil engineer who's made his mark in the private sector right here in Australia. Van's journey is nothing short of inspiring. He's faced challenges that many of us can relate to, like learning a new language and adjusting to a completely different work culture, and he's come out stronger and wiser. I know you're going to take away so much from Van's story, whether you're just starting your migration journey or you're already here and looking to find your place. So, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Van. Van, it's such an honor to have you with us for this live event.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share my experiences with everyone tuning in.
The pleasure is all ours, Van. Let's dive right into your story because I know our listeners are eager to hear it. What brought you to Australia and how did your journey as a skilled migrant begin?
Well, I came to Australia about 5 years ago. The opportunities here in my field as a civil engineer were a big draw for me. Well, Australia's reputation as a welcoming and diverse country also played a huge role. But like many migrants, I quickly realized that it wasn't just about having the qualifications. There were challenges I needed to overcome before I could establish myself here. The biggest hurdle, as I mentioned, was improving my English. Even though I had some knowledge, communicating in a professional setting was a completely different challenge. Then there was adjusting to the Australian culture, both in general life and in the workplace. It took time to understand how things work here.
That's such an honest start, Van. I think many people underestimate how challenging that transition can be. You mentioned improving your English as a key challenge. How did you tackle that?
As a mix of things, I did enroll in professional English courses, but honestly, the most progress came from immersing myself in the language. I made a point to speak English daily, even when I was nervous about making mistakes. I also watched Australian TV shows like Neighbours and listened to local radio stations like Triple J to familiarize myself with the accents and common phrases. It wasn't just about understanding words, it was about grasping the tone and the cultural context behind them. And of course, working in English-speaking environments pushed me to improve quickly.
That's such practical advice. I love the idea of using TV and radio to learn. It's such a natural way to absorb the culture too. Speaking of culture, how did you find adjusting to the Australian workplace compared to where you were coming from?
The Australian workplace was very different from what I was used to. Back home in Vietnam, workplaces tended to be more hierarchical, and as a junior employee, you weren't always expected to contribute much beyond your role. In Australia, I found that everyone's input is valued, no matter their position, is very collaborative here. Another big difference was the work-life balance. Australians take their personal time seriously. I had to learn how to prioritize tasks and be efficient during work hours because people don't usually stay late at the office. It was refreshing, but also an adjustment.
It sounds like you had to adapt in so many ways. Now, one challenge we hear about often is the struggle to land that first job without local experience. How did you navigate that?
That was probably one of the hardest parts. My first few applications didn't get any responses, which was discouraging. But I realized I wasn't tailoring my CV to Australian standards. Once I made those adjustments, highlighting transferable skills and structuring it to meet local expectations, I started getting callbacks. My first job was in civil engineering. It was as a site assistant for a small construction company. But I didn't see it as a setback. I saw it as a stepping stone. It gave me the chance to understand Australian workplace culture and build my confidence.
That's such a great perspective, Van. I think a lot of people feel disheartened when their first job isn't in their field, but you turned it into an opportunity. Did you rely on networking to find that first role?
Yes, and networking played a big role. I started connecting with people on LinkedIn and attending local industry events like Engineers Australia conferences. Building those relationships helped me understand the job market better. Many companies in Australia also have referral programs where employees can recommend candidates. So having those connections really helped.
That's a great tip. And for listeners who are just starting out, networking can feel intimidating. Do you have any advice for making those first connections?
Absolutely. Start by reaching out to people in your field with personalized messages. Don't just send generic connection requests. Explain why you admire their work or ask for their advice. Most people are happy to share their experiences. Also, attend events, whether online or in person. Industry meetups or conferences are great places to connect with others. And remember, networking isn't about asking for a job, it's about building genuine relationships.
Such solid advice, Van. Now let's talk about your experience in public sector recruitment. I know that's a different process entirely. Can you walk us through what it was like?
Of course. My second job was in the public sector, and I got it through a graduate program I found on the Jumpstart website. The process was quite structured. To apply, I had to complete selection criteria, which is essentially a set of questions asking how your skills and experiences align with the job requirements. It takes time to write detailed evidence-based responses, but it's worth the effort. If you pass that stage, you're usually invited for an interview, where they may ask questions similar to the selection criteria. It's a thorough process, but it ensures they find the right fit for the role.
It sounds like a lot of preparation goes into it, but it's so rewarding when you succeed. Speaking of preparation, what soft skills would you say are most important for migrants to focus on?
Communication is number one, not just speaking, but also listening. Australians value clear and direct communication, so it's important to be concise and confident in how you express yourself. Teamwork is another big one. Australian workplaces thrive on collaboration, so being able to work well with others is crucial. And adaptability, being open to feedback and willing to adjust to new ways of working, goes a long way.
Those are excellent points. Before we wrap up, Van, let's talk about resilience. What kept you motivated during the tougher times in your journey?
It was a combination of things. I reminded myself why I came to Australia and what I wanted to achieve. Surrounding myself with supportive people, whether friends, family, or mentors, also made a big difference. And honestly, I learned to embrace the small wins, whether it was improving my English, landing a volunteer role, or even getting positive feedback on a project. Those moments kept me going.
That's such an empowering message. Van, your story has been so inspiring and insightful. Before we close, is there one final piece of advice you'd like to give to migrants listening today?
I would say don't be afraid to start small. Every experience, even if it's volunteering or an entry-level job, is a stepping stone. Be patient with yourself, stay open to learning, and never underestimate the value of networking and building relationships. And most importantly, believe in your unique strengths. You bring something valuable to the table.
What a fantastic note to end on. Van, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey. I know our listeners will find so much value in your story.
Well, thank you, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the February live event of the Australian Immigration Bulletin. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with anyone who might benefit from it. Until next time, take care and keep striving for your dreams.